Hello and welcome to WION World is One. I'm Ghadi and this is the West Asia Post, our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates and stories from this region. Today I'm standing in Al-Biqa, a special and large area in Lebanon. Behind that mountain in the horizon over there, it's a few miles and you get to Damascus, the capital of Syria. And behind that mountain in the horizon over there, which is called Mount Hermon, it's a few miles and you get to the Golan Heights and to Palestine. So as you can see, it is actually one of the most volatile areas in the world. Our top story today starts from Palestine. Veteran journalist Shireen Abu Akleh was shot dead while covering an Israeli army raid in Jenin. The Qatar-based television she works for says that the Israeli army killed her, a charge that the Israeli government denies. Palestinian-American Shireen Abu Akleh was known for her coverage of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, giving voice to thousands of Palestinians living in the occupied territories. Lawmakers, activists, and even the White House have condemned killing Shireen, as thousands in the West Bank went out to honor her. Let's go to Palestine.
Shireen Abu Akleh, a trailblazing Palestinian reporter, a known face in Arab media. An inspiration for Palestinian women.
Okay, we were standing here for Palestinians.
And a journalist hailed by Palestinians across generations. Shireen said her life was shaped by the Israel-Palestine conflict. She was born in East Jerusalem to a Palestinian Christian family. Her mother was born in West Jerusalem before the creation of Israel. Her father was from Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank. She graduated from university the year the Oslo Peace Accords were signed. Her first job was at the nascent Voice of Palestine Radio. She then went on to work for a Qatar-based TV channel. This is where she went on to become an iconic personality in Arab media, an inspiration for journalists across Palestine and the world.
I feel a big loss. The last I spoke with her from Jenin itself some 10 days ago. Her voice still rings in my ear.
I feel a lot of anger. I feel a lot of sadness, frustration. What happened is unacceptable.
Shireen's last mail to her colleagues was this. She said, "Hi, there is an Israeli intervention in Jenin and I'm heading there now. I'm almost there. I will send you details." Her colleagues were waiting for Shireen to send in details. Instead, what they got was shocking social messages about her killing. Now, there have been conflicting reports on how Shireen was killed. Eyewitnesses, her news channel, and Palestine all blame Israel for the murder.
They shot us for no reason. We, a group of journalists, were there wearing our full press uniform, in addition to the helmets with the word press written in large letters. We were obvious. We made sure to walk right in front of the army patrols so that they can see us, and they saw us. After we went to a road where there were no armed people, no civilians, and there were no shooting and no incidents there. We were shocked by the shooting.
We hold the Israeli occupation authorities fully responsible for her killing, and will not be able to conceal the truth with this crime. This crime shall not pass without penalty. We would like to point out that we reject and have rejected the joint investigation with the Israeli authorities because it committed this crime and because we do not trust them, and we will immediately approach the International Criminal Court.
أننا قد رفضنا ونرفض.
The Arab world also echoed this call. What they want is an independent international probe.
The Arab group in New York adopted a statement condemning in the strongest possible term this criminal act by the Israeli occupying authorities and demanding an international independent investigation on this crime and to take those who are responsible for this crime to face the accountability regarding these crimes.
Israel, on the other hand, has conflicting stances. At first, they said it was a Palestinian gunman. Then, the Israeli military backtracked from its initial claim. They said they did not know which direction the fire came from. At first, Naftali Bennett also shared a video of a crossfire. But soon, Shireen's news channel shared a different video. Akleh's body was in a different location than that in Bennett's video. Across Palestine and the occupied West Bank, people took to the streets to pay a tribute to Akleh. Many held flowers, wreaths and pictures of Abu Akleh. There were murals. Her name was carved on Gaza's beaches, while her news channel paid Shireen a tearful tribute.
The Palestine people stand with her and with us. She will not be forgotten and is the biggest proof of the presence of Palestinian people in their own land. I thank everyone who helped us.
Shireen is not the first Palestinian journalist to be killed, but she was a pioneer of her generation, breaking stereotypical gender roles in TV journalism and giving a voice to the voiceless. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
From Saudi Arabia to Lebanon, Syria, and even Iran, we have a lot more lined up for you in this edition of the West Asia Post. But first, let's take a look at what else is making the headlines across the region.
Qatar's Emir meets Iran's Supreme Leader and President Raisi in Tehran for talks that focused on bilateral and regional issues, in addition to efforts to restore Iran's 2015 nuclear deal. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi launches major reforms to the country's subsidies system amid continued efforts to give new momentum to stalled Iran nuclear deal talks. The new U.S. general overseeing American forces in West Asia says allies were concerned about long-term U.S. commitment to the region as he wrapped up a visit to the United Arab Emirates. A leading Turkish opposition figure has been banned from politics and sentenced to almost 5 years in prison. This was after she tweeted accusing President Erdogan of theft. According to a new report, Israel has advanced plans for 4,427 housing units for Jewish settlers in the occupied West Bank. This comes amid heightened tensions over settlements that are considered illegal by the international community. United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan has died at the age of 73. UAE has announced official mourning and flags to fly at half-mast for a period of 40 days.
Lebanon is going to polls on May 15. These are the first elections after the October 2019 protests. But they are unlikely to yield a seismic shift. Despite the widespread discontent with the corrupt political class, one that has been blamed for a painful economic crisis and a deadly Beirut port blast, Given the political sectarian system in Lebanon, it is likely to reproduce the same political class, but this time with internal and international legitimacy. We tell you more. Lebanon is going through its worst economic crisis in decades, one that has been the result of poor financial policies. The dollar has plunged, fuel and medicines are running out, and prices of basic necessities are soaring to a record high. So will the elections become a sign of hope, or will they be yet another failure in the crisis-hit nation? The elections are unlikely to yield a seismic shift. Despite a widespread discontent about the political class, Lebanon's political makeup has plagued the country since the civil war. The president should be a Maronite, the prime minister is a Sunni, and the speaker of the parliament must be a Shia. It was meant to transition the country into a post-war situation. But what it did was allow the conflict to persist in Lebanon. The politicians separated their portions of the government, using the money to enrich themselves and their political class.
Lebanon's political regime is hundreds of years old. It did not just start recently when Greater Lebanon was created. It is deeply entrenched in society, in the land, in the logic of the people.
The system has held back the emergence of non-sectarian political parties. The elections will be the first since the protests that broke out in October 2019. The anger exploded into months of street rallies, but soon lost momentum as the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Popular fury flared again after the Beirut port blast. A huge stockpile of ammonium nitrate exploded in August 2020, killing more than 200 people and devastating entire neighborhoods. The violence on October 14, 2021 further escalated the situation. Governments have since failed to chart a path out of this crisis. So when the state failed to provide basic services, traditional leaders jumped in. Their decades-old patronage networks helped with handouts, like fuel and basic goods. While the number of independent candidates have doubled since 2018, Lebanon's electoral law is designed to benefit established players. For now, the opposition is far from united.
Just like we spent days, weeks and months protesting in the streets, today we also have a responsibility as those who protested against the regime to, just as we protested in the street, we should protest at the ballot boxes.
The other risk is high abstention rates. Nearly 44% of eligible voters plan to abstain. Currently, nearly 60% of the Lebanese diaspora has already voted for the polls. The overseas ballots will now be sent to the capital Beirut for counting. Only when polls close after nationwide voting on May 15.
We're here to change things. I didn't leave my job, carry my 1-year-old son and come here in 40-degree weather for nothing. Sure, I want to change. They have ruled us for a long time. And look where we are now. We are no longer able to go back to our country to visit our family.
Last month, the IMF announced the approval of aid for the country. However, the final IMF approval is contingent on implementation of critical reforms. Lebanon's international donors have long demanded for these reforms. And to implement these, Lebanon needs a strong government. This makes these elections particularly crucial. Lebanon needs it for aid. And to show the world there is a way forward for Lebanon. For many, it is a sign of hope. Others, it is a sign of looming disaster. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One. He was once known as one of Lebanon's most powerful men. Jamil al-Sayed rose to become Lebanon's intelligence chief after the civil war. And after that, he was the major general in charge of the general security in the country. In 2005, he quit after the assassination of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri. He was then sent to 4 years in jail before being released without any charges. The judgment by the Special Tribunal for Lebanon demanded a compensation and an apology by the Lebanese government and the international community of Mr. Jamil al-Sayed. In 2018, he ran for the elections in a coalition with Hezbollah. He got the highest amount of votes in the area, and he became one of the most vocal MPs inside the parliament. This time, the former spy chief master is running again for the elections. I had an exclusive conversation with him about the system, about the future of Lebanon, and about his candidacy. Let's take a look.
Hello, Mr. General, Mr. MP. Thank you for having us. My first question is, you have been really vocal about the inconvenience or the irrelevance of this elections. You said it's not going to change anything about Lebanon, yet you are running once again. Why?
Where Lebanon is in total bankruptcy and people's needs are in their extreme limits. At the same time, the hope is vanishing more and more at all levels in the state and for the future. I was not intending to run for the election, frankly, in the past few months, because I tried within 4 years to change things. But being alone as an independent MP, you are a voice. If you have a bloc, parliamentary bloc, you become an influence. But if you have an official high post, political high post in the state, you became an authority. And authorities, executive, can change things. As voice, I did my job, and I'm okay with it. But since I was in the army and the services, military intelligence and civil intelligence in Lebanon, I was in full time in the state at 37 years. I was in the executive. Now I was seeing myself as just a voice. And a voice can't build anything. I can criticize and can show the people where are the differences in the state, where are the violations of the laws, but you can do nothing. Yes. And we have a political class dominating the state. Since the time of the Civil War, they were militias and they became politicians with neckties. But they brought their culture of the struggle and partition of streets and communities, they brought it to the state. And actually we have within the central state 4 states. One for the Shiites, one for the Sunnis, one for the Druses, and one for the Christians. And when you have 4 states inside one state, and where clientelism is the main system in those states, it means the destruction of the central state, which become just a superficial image of a state. Now I'm running again for the sole reason that for some people, I am from the ones that would give them a hope.
Sir, if I may, of course, your choice is reflected in the votership. You got the #1 and largest amount of support in this district that you ran in 2018. I would really speak generally and take it from there. You spoke anti-Miqati government in the parliament. I heard that. The Lebanese people heard that. You spoke about the economy and the banking sector several times, many times. You even had some press conferences about that. I really want to ask you about May 17th. What's going to happen to Lebanon after the elections? Will the IMF actually fund this government? Will the same government stay? There are some security fears among the Lebanese people. You have always whistleblowed about the security fears and the social security fears in Lebanon. How do you see Lebanon after that elections, given that the same political structure will probably come back to the parliament?
As I said, being in a political system dominated by community leaders, sectarian ones, it means this is the first step to start in what I call clientelism and corruption. And this chain of corruption, which including everybody, when I'm saying all of them are having different level of corruptions. What we have seen today, what we are seeing today, is an accumulation of years of corruption, the years of this kind of domination, political domination, partition of the state, which brought us to this big bankruptcy in Lebanon, where the depositors lost around $120 billion. And the government, different governments, within their corruption from different kinds, they were spending the money of the Lebanese and other depositors in Lebanon.
Catch the full interview on WION's YouTube and social media.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad recently visited Tehran. It is the second visit since the Syrian civil war started. But what was the reason for the president to take a sudden trip to Iran? Was it really to reaffirm the ties between the two countries, or is there another reason that Assad needed Tehran? In our next report, we tell you all about this sudden trip.
Winds of change are blowing in West Asia. Relationships are changing every minute, but some ties have stood the test of time. One such relationship is that of Iran and Syria. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was in Tehran. The Syrian president met two of Iran's top leaders, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and President Ibrahim Raisi. The leaders praised the strong ties between their nations and vowed to further boost relations. So what was said during this visit? Khamenei told Assad that everyone sees the country as a power. Assad instead was seen hailing the strategic ties between Iran and Syria. The two countries also said that Iran-Syria relations served as a bulwark for US influence. Assad has rarely traveled abroad since the war. The civil war made him a global pariah, and the Arab world soon abandoned. He only had two key allies backing him, Russia and Iran. Throughout the war, Tehran stood by the Assad regime. Tehran has given financial and military support to the government. It even sent Iran-backed fighters alongside his forces. This assistance even helped turn the tide in Assad's favor. Iran's leadership sees Syria as a close ally. Tehran's economic influence in Syria has grown in recent years. It has offered credit lines to the Damascus government. For Iranian companies, it also meant lucrative business deals. Iran-backed groups have also actively supported the Syrian government. No one knows the precise reason why Assad suddenly visited Tehran. It was an unannounced visit, and very few people knew about it. But many believe it was to discuss the deployment of Iranian forces to Syria. The Syrian regime is concerned about one thing right now: the war in Ukraine. Russia has shifted its focus to the war at its borders. They may soon pull their forces out of Syria to help its army in Ukraine. This is a vacuum that Iran could move in to fill. Assad now needs Tehran more than ever, which means this Iran trip was crucial for him. If Russia starts moving more and more forces out of Syria, Assad would soon need Tehran's help. A report even states the Iran Revolutionary Guards and Hezbollah could take over Moscow's bases. A move that could only mean one thing: Iran's growing clout in the region. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Passers-by often click pictures when Misfir emerges from his luxury white car in the streets of Riyadh. The male model is known to be a trailblazer in the kingdom, testing gender norms in a changing Saudi Arabia. But this isn't without considerable amounts of risk. We tell you more about his story in this report.
Hot pink hair extensions, a leopard print pantsuit. Ziad Al Mesfer was bound to turn head, especially in the deeply conservative kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Such appearances have helped Mesfer immensely. He has built a massive social media presence, blazing a trail for a handful of Saudi male models, while pushing the boundaries of Saudi's rigid gender norms. In the process, he has endeared himself to expensive brands, all of whom are keen to profit from a spectacle.
Usually I do not wear male clothes. I wear clothes that have bold and innovative colors that enhance and keep the fashion up to date. I don't like to wear green, yellow or baby pink. This is me. I go out like this differently than everyone.
Yet, Mesfer's approach carries considerable risks. The desert monarchy has strict gender norms. It traditionally forbids men who imitate women or those who wear women's clothing. So Mesfer is no stranger to occasional harassment in person and online, but he says he has no plans to leave Saudi Arabia or modify his look.
It is better for me to stay in my country and wear these clothes rather than waiting to go on a trip abroad just to wear bold outfits.
Ziad Al Mesfer was born into a Riyadh-based family. He started to develop his sense of style from a young age. Around 2 years ago, Mesfer started modeling outfits online. He used the relatively safe medium of Snapchat, which automatically deletes posts once they are viewed. Today, he boasts of more than 2 million Snapchat followers. He has another 200,000 followers on Instagram, the kind of clout that has captured the attention of brands including Prada and Dior. But Saudi's limited acceptance is not a sign of endorsement. Mesfer often enjoys protection because he works with luxury brands and mingles with local celebrities who invite him to their events. But even as other male models and influencers follow his lead, Ziad Al Mesfer remains in a class by himself. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, coming to you from Al-Biqa, between Lebanon, Syria and Palestine. And you're watching WION. World is One.